We are right now hovering between two extremes. On the one hand, you have the intention by the British Empire and the City of London to run the genocidal extinction of the human species. On the other, the drive by a faction typified by Lyndon LaRouche and the slate of LaRouche PAC-endorsed candidates in the United States, and certain key moves by the incoming Putin administration in Russia to shift mankind back into accord with the universal law of progress. The already bankrupt British imperial monarchy has not for one moment given up their commitment to drive Russia into submission to their stated intention to reduce the world's human population to less than 1 billion. Or, if they find it possible, maybe the extinction of the human species altogether. The only way to break this confrontation is if the United States stops playing the key role with the thermonuclear capability of the U.S. military, especially the Ohio-class submarines, of threatening Russia with the only credible military means in the world to launch an attack on Russia's second strike capability. This explosion is happening now. It is to the extent that any candidate is talking about the one way to stop it that they have any credibility. We've got to impeach Barack Obama, not for issues. We must impeach him because he is the lever for the British to launch World War III. And if you don't believe we're on the verge of World War, look at the updated statement made by the chief of the Russian Armed Forces General Staff, General Nikolai Makarov, just this past Thursday at a 2-day international conference on anti-ballistic missile systems hosted by the Russian government in Moscow. At the center of the agenda at this conference was the NATO-US anti-missile system in Europe, which Russia has repeatedly identified as a threat to its strategic forces. General Makarov warned during the opening session that preemptive action against NATO's missile defense system has now been put on the table if NATO continues to refuse to address Russia's concerns.
The placement of new strike weapons in the south and northwest of Russia against NATO missile defense components, including the deployment of Iskander missile systems in Kaliningrad region, is one possible way of incapacitating the European missile defense infrastructure. The decision on the preemptive use of available weapons will be made during an aggravation of the situation.
Will Russia be forced into the use of a preemptive strike? Defense Minister Anatoly Serdyukov told the conference,
"So far, we have not found a mutually acceptable solution to the missile defense issue, and the situation is at a dead end."
He noted that NATO intends to declare initial operational capability of the European anti-ballistic missile systems on May 20th at the Chicago summit, indicating its willingness to go ahead without Russian accord.
There is a dilemma facing our countries now. Either we pass this test of cooperation and respond together to new missile challenges and threats, or we will be forced to undertake the necessary military measures.
But he also indicated that an agreement on missile defense can, in principle, be reached, as the recent agreement on nuclear arms reductions shows. Through the statements of Makarov and Serdyukov, Russia's message is clear: a desire to cooperate with the United States, but a refusal to back down. This change in stance from Russia echoes China's refusal to roll over at the threat of their annihilation. China has also been targeted with the Asian missile defense system that Obama launched in his November trip to Indonesia and Australia. The Chinese response on March 29th to the Obama announcement in Seoul that the U.S., with Australia, Japan, and South Korea, would erect a missile defense system in the Asia-Pacific region, was to warn that this could mean thermonuclear war. The editorial in China's Global Times warned of the consequences of the U.S. following their steps in Europe by seeking to build a missile defense system in Asia and the Middle East. It said,
North Korea and Iran are named by Washington as the targets of the missile defense system, though it is clear that the real targets are China and Russia. China needs to assess what long-term damage this system will impose on China's strategic security. Among the nuclear powers, China has the smallest number of nuclear weapons. It is also the only country to make a no first use commitment. Installing a missile defense system in Asia disrespects China's nuclear policy. The U.S. is seeking to shift the regional balance. A strong response from China should be expected. An overarching missile defense system would force China to change its long-held nuclear policy.
The British Empire is going for full-scale global war, and neither Russia nor China are backing down. Were the United States to act sanely, we would work with Russia and China. We would collaborate with the incoming Putin administration in Russia with what has been offered by them in their proffer of a collaboration around a strategic defense of Earth. We would work with China on what they are accomplishing with nuclear power. We would work with both Russia and China on the basis of the common interests of our nations and of mankind. So reflect again on the hesitation and political cowardice of those who refuse to stand up to Obama. Take those who will say, "Don't worry, we'll get him out. Vote Republican." Choosing the lesser of two evils in November won't stop the unfolding of potential global warfare today. The British aren't waiting till November, but their reality is that they can't run this operation without access to the U.S. thermonuclear arsenal, which leaves us with only one option: to remove Obama now. If we don't get Obama out, we won't be able to hold this back. So the global showdown is here and now. If you think that we have the luxury of time to wait for an election, you're dead wrong.